Commander Hay-Il stepped off the transport ship and looked at Station Meridian for the first time. The station hung in space like a giant wheel, slowly turning. It was made of steel and glass, and it caught the light of a distant star. She had waited for this moment for 3 years. This was the most important job of her life. Hay-Il was not a young woman. Her dark hair had some gray in it now. Her face showed the lines of someone who had spent many years studying alien creatures and trying to understand how they thought. She was a xenologist, which meant she studied living things from other worlds. But this job was different from anything she had done before. She was coming to Station Meridian to work with the Velkari. The Velkari were an alien species that nobody truly understood. They were big. They had sharp teeth and sharp claws. They moved like hunters. Everything about them said one thing: danger. The Velkari had fought with humans for many years. There had been battles and deaths on both sides. Now someone in the human government had made a brave choice. They decided to try something new. They wanted to see if humans and Velkari could live together and learn from each other. This was the plan. Bring young Velkari to the station. Bring human scientists and workers. Put them together in the same place. Watch what happens. Maybe they would fight. Maybe they would learn. Either way, someone needed to study it and understand it. Hay-Il was the person chosen to lead this study. As she walked through the corridors of the station, everything felt cold and empty. The white walls reflected the lights overhead. The air was cool and tasted like metal. She could hear the hum of the machines that kept everything working: air machines, heat machines, power machines. The station needed all of these things to stay alive in the empty black of space. Dr. Minna was waiting for her in the science lab. Minna was younger than Hay-Il, maybe 35 years old. She had short black hair and bright, curious eyes. She was also a scientist, and she had been at the station for 2 months already, preparing everything. "Welcome," Minna said, smiling. "How was the trip?" "Long," Hay-Il answered. "Long and quiet. I spent most of the time reading about the Velkari again. I wanted to be ready." "Nothing can really prepare you," Minna said. She did not sound happy. "They are here, all 3 of them, and Hay-Il, they are different than I thought they would be." "Different how?" Hay-Il asked. "Bigger," Minna said. "Faster. Their eyes. They watch everything. When I walked past them yesterday, I felt like I was an animal, and they were the hunters. That is exactly what they are. They were born to hunt. It is in every part of their body." Hay-Il nodded slowly. She had expected this feeling. Fear was normal. Fear was good. Fear meant respect. "Where are they now?" Hay-Il asked. "In the holding area. Security Chief Tae-sung wanted to keep them separate from the other people on the station until you arrived. He wanted you to help make the first decisions about how to manage them." Hay-Il and Min-ah walked to the command center. Tae-sung was there, watching screens that showed different parts of the station. On one screen, Hay-Il could see 3 large figures. They were in a big room with walls that looked very strong. These were the Velkari cubs. Cubs. That was a funny word. They were huge. Each one was nearly 7 feet tall. Their skin was black and shiny like polished stone. They had muscles that moved under their skin as they walked. They had teeth that looked like daggers, but they were young. In Velkari years, they were only teenagers. Their elders were much bigger and much more dangerous. "How long have they been here?" Hay-Il asked. 5 days, Tae-sung said. He was a big man with a serious face. He had been in security work for many years. "We have been feeding them. They eat a lot. They are very interested in the other people on the station. Sometimes they try to push on the walls of their room like they want to get out. Most of the time they just watch. They watch everything." Hay-Il studied the screens carefully. She watched how the 3 Velkari moved together. The biggest one seemed to be the leader. The other two followed his movements. They had a structure already. There was order in how they behaved. This was good. It meant they would not be completely wild and unpredictable. "I want to see them," Hai-Il said. "Now?" Tae-sung asked with surprise. "You just arrived. You have not even gone to your room yet." "Now," Hai-Il said. "I want to be fresh. I want to see them when I am strong and clear in my mind." Tae-sung took her to a safe room. This was a room with thick glass on one side, so people could watch the Valkyrie without being in the same space. Hai-Il looked through the glass at them. They did not see her at first, but soon the biggest one, the leader, turned his head. His eyes found her through the glass. He did not look angry. He looked curious. His head tilted slightly. Then the other two turned to look also. All three of them moved closer to the glass. They did not hit it or push it. They just stood there, watching her watch them. It was a strange moment. Hai-Il could feel something passing between them. Not words, not feelings exactly, but something. An understanding, maybe. A question. A wondering about what this new thing was. The biggest one opened his mouth slightly. She could see those teeth. She could see his tongue. But he made no sound. He was just showing her what he was. Just showing her his teeth, the way an animal might show another animal. Hai-Il did not look away. She did not show fear. She just looked back at him, calm and still. After a long time, the Valkyrie turned away. He walked to the other side of the room and lay down. The other two did the same. They curled up on the floor and closed their eyes like they had decided she was not interesting anymore. But Hai-Il knew better. They had been very interested. They were just resting now. Hunters rested when they were not hunting. That night, Hai-Il sat in her room and looked out at the stars. Her room was small. It had a bed, a desk, a chair, and a window. Through the window, she could see the infinite black of space. Somewhere out there, the Valkyrie had come from. They had their own worlds, their own ways, their own rules for living. She had come here to understand them, to find a way for her people and their people to exist together without killing each other. It was a big job, the biggest job anyone had ever asked her to do. She thought about those eyes, watching her through the glass. She thought about the way the leader had shown her his teeth, not as a threat exactly, but as a message, as a way of saying, "This is what I am." Tomorrow, she would start the real work. Tomorrow, she would begin to try to understand what it meant to be Valkyrie. And maybe, if she was very lucky and very careful, she could help them understand what it meant to be human. She closed her eyes and rested, knowing that nothing would ever be simple again. The morning came fast. Hai-Il woke up early, before the artificial lights in her room had even turned on. She lay in bed for a moment, thinking about what the day would bring. She had slept well, but her mind was already busy with plans and questions. She went to the bathroom and washed her face with cold water. The cold made her feel awake and alive. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her face looked determined. Good. She would need to be strong today. The Valkyrie could smell fear. Not smell exactly, because they probably did not use their noses the way humans did. But they could sense it. They could sense weakness. If she showed any doubt, they would see it and remember it. Hai-Il put on her uniform. It was dark blue, with her rank and name on the front. Then she put on her reinforced jacket. This jacket was made of special material that could take scratches and impacts. It looked like a normal jacket, but it was made to protect her. She zipped it up and felt better. She was ready. She went to her office first. Mina was already there, working on her computer. "You are up early," Mina said. "I could not sleep much," Hai-Il said. "I kept thinking about them, about those eyes." Mina nodded. "I have been the same way since they arrived. There is something about them that stays with you. Even when you are not looking at them, you feel them in the room. That is the predator in them," Hai-Il said. Their whole body is designed to hunt. Their brain is designed to hunt. Even their young ones, the ones we call cubs, they have this. It is not mean. It is not evil. It is just what they are. So how do we live with that? Min-Ah asked. How do we share a space with creatures that were born to be our enemies? Hai-Il sat down at her desk. She thought about this question for a long moment before speaking. Maybe we stop thinking of them as enemies, she said. Maybe we just think of them as different. A wolf is not evil because it hunts sheep. A shark is not evil because it hunts fish. The Velkhari are not evil because they have the body and mind of a hunter. They just are what they are. But they could hurt us, Min-Ah said. Yes, Hai-Il agreed. They could, just as we could hurt them. That is why this place exists. That is why we are here. To find out if we can share space anyway. If we can learn that being dangerous to each other does not mean we have to be enemies to each other. They walked to the common area of the station. This was a big open room where people could eat and rest and talk to each other. The walls were white. There were tables and chairs. There was a kitchen where food was prepared. There was a coat rack near the main door where people hung their jackets when they came inside. Hai-Il had decided that today would be the first day the Velkhari cubs would be allowed to come to this common area. Tae-Sung had disagreed. He thought it was too dangerous. But Hai-Il was the commander of this project, so her word was final. Are you sure about this? Tae-Sung asked. He was standing by the door, watching the hallway carefully. No, Hai-Il said, and she smiled a little. I am not sure at all, but we will never know if we keep them locked up forever. The Velkhari came through the door, all three of them. They moved slowly because the doorway was not very wide. When they were fully inside the room, they stopped and looked around. Their eyes went to every corner. Their heads moved slowly, taking in the space. The biggest one, the leader, walked over to the food area. His large nose sniffed the air. The food here was mostly for humans, but Tae-Sung had brought some Velkhari food as well. Meat, large pieces of raw meat, packed with nutrients. The cub's eyes went bright when he saw this. The other two stayed closer to the door. They seemed nervous, or maybe just careful. They watched their leader to see what he would do first. Hai-Il was standing near the coat rack. She was tired. She had had a long morning in the office, reading reports and looking at data. She had not planned to come to the common area right at this moment. But here she was. The big Velkhari leader was eating now. He was eating fast, the way hunters eat, like he might lose his meal at any moment. The other two waited. When he was done, they would eat. That was the order. That was how it worked in their group. Hai-Il felt a wave of tiredness wash over her. The long journey, the early morning, the stress of the job, all of it hit her at once. She had spent so much energy staying alert, staying strong in front of Min-Ah and Tae-Sung. Now, for just a moment, she let her guard down a little. She unzipped her jacket. She pulled it off her shoulders. It was warm in the common area, and the jacket had been making her feel trapped. She moved to the coat rack and hung her jacket on one of the hooks. It was a simple, normal thing to do. A human thing to do. A thing she had done 1,000 times before in her life. She did not think about it. She did not plan it. She just did it. But the Velkhari noticed. All three of them stopped moving. The big leader pulled his head up from the food. His eyes turned to her. His entire body went very still. The other two also turned to look. They were all watching her now, all watching the jacket hanging on the rack, all watching her standing there without her protective gear. Hai-Il froze. She realized what she had just done. She had taken off her armor. She had made herself vulnerable. She had shown them that she felt safe here, that she was so confident in this space that she did not need her protection. In the world of the Velkhari, only the strongest, the most powerful, the most sure of their place, would ever do something like this. To remove protection was to show that you had nothing to fear. It was a show of supreme confidence. The big leader lowered his head slowly. He looked back at his food. He finished eating, but something had changed. His body was different now, less tense, less ready to fight. He was still alert, still watching, but in a different way now. The other two cubs also relaxed, just a little bit. Minna looked at Hai-Il with surprised eyes. Tae-sung's hand moved away from his weapon slightly. They had been waiting for the Velkhari to attack, but no attack came. Instead, there was a new kind of silence. A silence of respect, maybe. A silence of understanding. Hai-Il stood there, without her jacket, without her armor, feeling more powerful than she had ever felt before. She had not planned this. She had not known what she was doing, but somehow, without words, she had spoken to them in a language they understood. The rest of the day passed slowly. The Velkhari cubs stayed in the common area. They did not bother anyone. They did not attack anyone. They just watched. They watched Hai-Il most of all. They watched the way she moved, the way she acted, the way she was with other people. By the time the suns came down and the lights began to dim, something had shifted on the station. Something small, but something real. The Velkhari were no longer just dangerous creatures locked in a room. They were beings that could see strength in others. Beings that could understand something about respect and safety. And it had all started with a jacket. 1 week had passed since Hai-Il had hung her jacket on the rack. 1 week. That was not much time in the life of a person or a station or even a whole species. But on Station Meridian, 1 week had changed everything. The Velkhari cubs came to the common area every day now. This was not because anyone forced them. Tae-sung had not made them come. Hai-Il had not ordered them. They came because they wanted to. They were drawn to something here, to a place where things were different from what they knew. Every day, Hai-Il came to the common area, and every day she followed the same routine. She would arrive, tired or stressed or busy with her work, and she would take off her jacket. She would hang it on the rack in the same spot each time. The hook was becoming known as her hook. The other people on the station had started to notice. They had started to talk about it. "Did you see her?" a worker named Dae-jung had said to his friend. "Every day she does it, takes off her jacket like she owns the place." "Maybe she does," his friend had replied. "Maybe that is what being a commander means." But the Velkhari cubs understood something different. They understood that Hai-Il was not just taking off her jacket because she was tired or hot. She was doing something more. She was making a statement every time she did it. She was saying, "I am safe here. We are all safe here. I trust this place so much that I do not need my protection." In the world of the Velkhari, this was the strongest thing a leader could possibly do. Dr. Ji-woo was the station's behavioral scientist. She studied how people and creatures acted. She had been watching the Velkhari cubs very carefully. She had been taking notes and watching their body language and their movements. One day, Ji-woo came to talk to Hai-Il. "I have been observing the cubs," Ji-woo said. She was a serious woman with glasses and a calm voice. "Their behavior is changing. The aggression levels are down. The fighting among themselves has stopped almost completely. They are more focused now, more organized." "That is good," Hai-Il said. "That means they feel safe." "But that is the interesting part," Ji-woo said. "They feel safe because of you, because of what you do. The jacket, the way you move, the way you act in the common area, you are teaching them something without saying any words at all." Hai-Il had not thought about it this way. She had just been trying to show them that humans could be safe to be around, that humans were not all violent, that vulnerability could be strength. "What do you think I am teaching them?" Hai-Il asked. I think you are teaching them that confidence comes from inside, Ji-woo said. That real power is not about looking strong or acting tough. It is about knowing who you are and being okay with it. The Velkari have always believed that leaders must show no weakness. But you are showing them something different. You are showing them that showing no fear and showing trust are not the same thing. Then something happened that surprised everyone. One of the Velkari cubs, the one they called Krell because his skin had a small pattern of lighter marks that looked like a K, came to the coat rack. He was carrying his own protective gear. It was a harness that he wore, made of thick material that protected his body. Krell looked at the coat rack. He looked at Hai-Il's jacket hanging there. Then he did something no one had ever seen a Velkari do before. He took off his harness. He pulled it off his shoulders slowly. His large, muscular body was now without protection. He was vulnerable. He was exposed. And then he did something that made everyone in the room go very quiet. He hung his harness on the ground, right next to Hai-Il's jacket. Not on the rack, on the ground. It was deliberate, it was careful. He placed it there with respect, the way a hunter might place a trophy. The other two Velkari cubs watched this. Their eyes were very bright. They looked at Krell. They looked at the harness on the ground. They looked at Hai-Il. Then they came forward as well. They removed their protective gear, and they also placed it on the ground, next to Krell's harness. 3 pieces of protective equipment lying on the ground of the common area of Station Meridian. 3 statements of trust. 3 acts of courage that said, "We understand now. We understand that strength can be quiet, that power can be gentle, that the best leaders are those who do not need to show their claws." The other people on the station looked shocked. Tae-sung's hand went to his weapon, but then he stopped. He saw what was happening. This was not an attack. This was something else, something he did not quite understand. But something that told him the danger had passed. Mina came over to Hai-Il with tears in her eyes. "Do you see what you have done?" Mina asked. "Do you see what you have started?" Hai-Il looked at the 3 Velkari cubs standing without their protection. She looked at their gear on the ground. She thought about her jacket hanging on the rack. And she understood that something very important had just happened. "I did not do this alone," Hai-Il said. "They did this. They chose this. They understood what it meant, and they chose to try it." Word spread through the station quickly. By the evening, the news had reached the other Velkari delegation that was in orbit around the space station. The elder Velkari were told what had happened. The younger Velkari cubs from their ships had removed their protection. They had put their gear on the ground. Some of the elders were angry. In Velkari culture, this looked like weakness. This looked like submission. It looked like the young ones were giving up their strength. But others, the smarter ones, the ones who understood that the universe was always changing, they wondered if maybe the young ones had discovered something new, something powerful, a way to be strong that did not require showing teeth and claws all the time. That night, Hai-Il stood in the common area alone. The others had gone to rest. She looked at the 4 jackets and harnesses on the floor. Her jacket still hung on the rack, but now the ground was a different kind of rack. A ground rack, a place where the Velkari had put their trust. She thought about what this meant, not just for the cubs, but for both species. The Velkari had always been hunters. Humans had always been prey in their eyes. But here, in this moment, that had changed. The Velkari had put down their weapons. They had put down their armor. And in doing so, they had picked up something more powerful. They had picked up hope. 3 months had passed. 3 months since Krell had first placed his harness on the ground. 3 months since everything had changed on Station Meridian. The station was not the same place anymore. The fear that had hung in the air like a cloud was now mostly gone. Humans and Velkari still did not trust each other completely. That would take time. Maybe years, maybe generations. But they no longer saw each other as pure enemies. They saw each other as other beings. Different beings, yes, but beings that could share a space without violence. The ritual with the jackets and harnesses had spread. More young Valkyrie had arrived at the station. They had heard about what the Cubs were doing. They wanted to understand it. They wanted to try it too. And something surprising had happened. Humans had started to join in, not with their jackets exactly, but in spirit. They had begun to show their own kind of vulnerability. Young engineer Dae Jung had started a practice where workers from different species would eat meals together in the common area. This might not sound like a big thing, but it was. Eating together meant trust. It meant you were willing to be near someone while you ate, when you could be hurt easily. The three original Cubs, Krell, Vash, and Zix, had become famous. Word of them had spread beyond the station. The Valkyrie government wanted to know what was happening. The human government wanted to know as well. A new person arrived on the station. Her name was Hei Wan, and she was a diplomat from Earth's central government. She was older than Hai Il, with white hair and a voice that could make people listen. She had come to see for herself what all the reports were about. Hei Wan watched everything carefully. She watched how the Valkyrie and humans moved around each other. She watched the common area where the jackets and harnesses still lay on the ground. She watched Hai Il working with the young Valkyrie Cubs. On the third day after arriving, Hai Wan asked to speak with Hai Il alone. They sat in Hai Il's office. Hai Wan had a folder full of papers and reports and data. She looked at Hai Il with serious eyes. The human government is very interested in what is happening here, Hai Wan said. They want to understand how you have done this, how you have taken a dangerous situation and turned it into something, well, into something good. I am not sure I have done anything special, Hai Il said. I have just tried to understand the Valkyrie, to see them as they are, not as what I fear they might be. That is exactly what is special, Hai Wan said. Most people cannot do this. Most people see a dangerous creature, and they think of ways to fight it or control it. But you looked at them and saw something else. You saw that they could change, that they could learn. They did change themselves, Hai Il said. I showed them one way, that things could be different. Hei Wan put down her folder. She leaned back in her chair. There is something I need to tell you, she said. The Valkyrie government is making changes. Real big changes. Young Valkyrie from many different colonies are now doing this ritual, the wearing off of armor, the showing of trust. It is spreading through their entire civilization. Hai Il was surprised to hear this. She had known it was spreading, but she had not understood how far. They are calling it something, Hai Wan continued. They are calling it Hai Il's path, the way of shown trust, the way of chosen vulnerability. Your name has become important to them. You have become a symbol of a new way of being. Hai Il did not know what to say. She had not wanted to be a symbol. She had just wanted to do her job. She had just wanted to understand the Valkyrie and help them understand that humans were not all enemies. There is more, Hai Wan said. The older Valkyrie leaders, the ones who have the power, they are split. Some of them are angry. They see this as weakness spreading through their young. But others think this is the best thing that has ever happened to their species. They think the young ones are discovering something important. That evening, Hai Il walked through the station with Minna. They talked about what Hai Wan had said. Are you worried? Minna asked. A little, Hai Il said. I did not ask for this. I did not want to change a whole species. I just wanted to help the three cubs understand that not all humans are evil. But you did change them, Minna said. And maybe that is okay. Maybe that is what needed to happen. Maybe the Valkyrie needed to learn that their way of doing things was not the only way, that there could be another path. In the common area, the ritual continued. The jackets hung on the rack. The harnesses lay on the ground, and slowly, more items were added to the ground. Protective gear from different Valkyrie who came to the station. each one leaving their armor behind, each one saying, "We understand now. We trust now." But not all the Velkari understood. News came from the Velkari government that some of the elders were unhappy. They called the ritual weakness. They said it was making their young ones soft. They said it would destroy everything the Velkari had built over thousands of years. Krell heard about this. The big cub, the one who had started it all, came to talk to Hai-Il. "The old ones are angry," Krell said. His voice was deep, and he had learned to speak human language fairly well. "They say we are becoming weak. They say we are betraying what it means to be Velkari." "What do you think?" Hai-Il asked. Krell was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I think we are becoming stronger, not weaker. When I did not wear my armor, I was afraid at first. I felt naked, I felt exposed. But then I understood something. Real strength is not about armor. Real strength is about knowing you are safe even without protection. Real strength is about trust." Hai-Il understood then what she had really done. She had not taught the Velkari to be weak. She had taught them that there was a different kind of strength, a strength that came from confidence, a strength that came from believing in each other. The station was changing, slowly, carefully, but definitely changing. The humans and Velkari were learning to work together. They were learning that being different did not mean being enemies. They were learning that the universe was big enough for both of them, and it had all started with a woman taking off her jacket. A year had passed since Hai-Il had first arrived at Station Meridian. 12 months, 365 days. The station was a different place now, not just different, but transformed. It was no longer a place of fear and careful watching. It had become a place of real cooperation. The three original cubs, Krell, Vash, and Zix, were no longer young. They were growing into their adult bodies. But they had not forgotten where they came from. They had not forgotten the lesson they had learned in the common area. They were now teachers themselves, showing other young Velkari what it meant to trust and to be trusted. On this particular day, Hai-Il was sitting in her office, looking at reports and data. The numbers were amazing. Accidents on the station had decreased by 40%. Conflicts between species had almost stopped completely. Production of work had gone up. Everything about the station was better. But Hai-Il knew that the real change was not in the numbers. The real change was in the hearts of the people and creatures who lived here. They had learned that being strong and being gentle were not opposites. They had learned that showing trust and being safe were connected. They had learned that the universe did not have to be a place where everyone fought everyone else. Mina came into the office. She looked excited. "You need to see this," Mina said. She handed Hai-Il a video screen showing a message from the Velkari homeworld. Hai-Il watched the video. It was from the Velkari Council of Elders. They had made an official announcement. The ritual that Krell and the other cubs had started was now being accepted across Velkari civilization. Young Velkari everywhere were learning about trust and vulnerability as forms of strength. The old leaders, the ones who had been angry at first, had come to understand something. They had understood that this new way was not weakness. It was evolution. The Velkari Council was announcing something amazing. They wanted to send delegations from their home world to Station Meridian. They wanted to learn more about this cooperation between species. They wanted to understand human culture and human ways, and they wanted to officially recognize what they were calling Hai-Il's path. Hai-Il did not know whether to be happy or scared. She had never wanted to be famous. She had never wanted to be the face of a whole movement. She just wanted to do her job and understand the Velkari. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the best changes in the world came not from people who planned them carefully, but from people who just did the right thing without thinking about it too much. That evening, a celebration was held on the station. It was small, not huge. It was for the people and creatures who had been there from the beginning. There was human food and Velkari food. There was music. There was dancing, which was interesting because humans danced very differently from Velkari. Hai-Il stood to the side, watching everything. She saw Dae-jung, the young engineer, sitting next to one of the newer Velkari. They were not talking, just sitting together, eating and watching the celebration. That was enough. That was more than enough. Dr. Jiwoo came and stood next to Hai-Il. "I have been studying the data from the entire year," Jiwoo said. "Do you know what I found?" "What?" Hai-Il asked. "Every major change in the station correlates with one thing: the daily ritual of the jackets and harnesses. Every time a new person or creature took off their armor and left it in the common area, the station became a little bit safer. The atmosphere became a little bit better. It is like a miracle, except it is not. It is just science. It is just the basic truth that when creatures show trust, other creatures respond with trust." Krell approached Hai-Il. He was much bigger now than he had been a year ago. He would be fully grown soon, but his eyes were still kind, still intelligent. "Commander Hai-Il," Krell said, "I came to tell you something. I am going to leave the station soon. The Council wants me to go back to the Velkari homeworld. They want me to help teach other young ones what we have learned here." "That is good," Hai-Il said, and she meant it. "You will be a great teacher." "It is because of you," Krell said. "You showed us that there was a different way to be. You showed us that we did not have to be what our history said we had to be. You showed us that we could change." "No," Hai-Il said gently. "You showed yourself that. I just took off my jacket. You understood what it meant. You had the courage to try something new." Later that night, Hai-Il went to the common area alone. The jackets and harnesses were still there. Her jacket still hung on the rack, worn now with age and use. The harnesses lay on the ground, more of them than before. Dozens of them now. Each one a moment when a Velkari had chosen trust over fear. She thought about what a strange year it had been. She thought about how a single, simple action had changed everything. Not because she had planned it, not because she had understood what it would mean, but just because she had been honest and true to herself. She picked up one of the older harnesses, Krell's first one. It was heavy and old. It had protected him, but it had also limited him. It had kept him from being vulnerable. It had kept him from understanding that there was more to strength than armor and teeth. She hung it on the rack next to her jacket. A voice spoke behind her. It was Tai-sung, the security chief. "You know what?" Tai-sung said. "A year ago, if someone had told me that this place would look like this, I would have said they were crazy. I would have said that humans and Velkari could never trust each other. I would have said it was impossible." "What do you think now?" Hai-Il asked. "I think that the most important things in the universe are usually the simplest things," Tai-sung said. "I think that all you need for peace is for one person to be brave enough to be vulnerable, and for someone else to be brave enough to understand what that means, and then everything else follows." As they stood there together, watching the collection of jackets and harnesses, Hai-Il finally began to understand the full importance of what had happened on Station Meridian. It was not just about Velkari and humans learning to live together. It was about showing the universe that change was possible, that even creatures born to be enemies could find a way to be partners. That trust could be more powerful than any weapon. The jackets on the ground were not just clothes anymore. They were symbols. They were proof that things could be different, that the universe did not have to be the way it had always been.